The plane dropped so hard my stomach stayed somewhere over Tennessee. A woman 3 rows up screamed. Someone's plastic cup hit the ceiling and came down like a tiny failed parachute. The overhead bins rattled as if every suitcase inside had suddenly decided to escape. And then Leah Whitaker, my best friend of 3 years, grabbed my hand like it was the last solid thing left in the sky. Her fingers locked through mine. Her face went white. And over the roar of the engines, she said, "If we don't make it, I love you." That was the moment my life split cleanly in two. Before that flight, I was Tyler Reed, 25 years old, assistant producer at a small documentary company in Denver, a man whose biggest emotional risk that week was whether to tell my boss I hated the new editing software. Before that flight, Leah was just Leah, my best friend, my emergency contact, my unofficial food critic, the woman who had once driven across town at midnight because I texted her, "I think I accidentally made soup with dish soap," and she wanted to document the crime scene. She was 24, a travel photographer with a laugh that could make strangers turn around smiling, and a habit of acting fearless right up until actual fear sat down beside her. She was also beautiful in a way I had trained myself not to notice. That is a lie. I noticed. I noticed when she wore her hair up and loose pieces fell near her cheek. I noticed when she concentrated on editing photos and bit the inside of her lip. I noticed the little freckle near her left eyebrow, the one she hated because she said it made her look permanently confused, even though I thought it made her look human in the best possible way. But I had rules. Best friends were not supposed to stare too long. Best friends were not supposed to imagine what it would feel like if a casual hug lasted 3 seconds longer. And best friends absolutely were not supposed to hear "I love you" for the first time while the plane was falling out of the sky. We were flying to Savannah for Leah's older sister's wedding. I was not her date, according to her. I was her buffer with dress shoes. "You understand your role," she had told me at the gate, holding 2 coffees and looking unfairly good in a soft blue sweater and jeans. "You stand near me when Aunt Marlene asks why I'm single, and you say something vaguely supportive but not romantic. Such as, such as, Leah is very busy and emotionally intimidating." That sounds romantic. It sounds accurate. I took one of the coffees from her and watched her tuck her boarding pass into the back pocket of her jeans. "What if your aunt asks if we're dating?" Leah gave me a look over the lid of her cup. "Then I'll say you're too delicate for me." I am not delicate. You alphabetize your spices. That's called being civilized. You own 3 kinds of paprika, Tyler. You photograph abandoned gas stations for fun. She smiled into her coffee. "And yet you're still coming to a wedding with me. Because you bribed me with shrimp and grits. Because you love me." She said it casually. She said things like that all the time. "Because you love me. You know you love me. That's why I love you, Reed. Always quick. Always easy. Always with a grin that made it impossible to tell where joking ended and something dangerous began." So I had learned to grin back. Tragically, I told her at the gate, yes. Her smile faltered for half a second. Just half. Then the boarding announcement came and she bumped my shoulder with hers. "Come on, delicate paprika man. Let's go pretend I have my life together." We ended up in row 18, seats A and B. Leah took the window because she always took the window. She said she liked watching the world shrink into a map. I told her that was pretentious. She told me my face was pretentious. For the first hour, everything was ordinary. She edited photos on her tablet. I read the same paragraph in a magazine 7 times because her elbow kept brushing mine on the armrest, and apparently I had the self-control of a golden retriever near bacon. At one point, she leaned over to show me a picture she'd taken through the window, a long silver wing cutting across a field of clouds. "Pretty, right?" she asked. I looked at the photo, then at her. "Yeah," I said too softly. She heard the difference. Her eyes flicked up to mine, and for a second, neither of us made a joke. The engine hummed beneath our feet. Her shoulder was warm against mine. There was a tiny smear of coffee-colored lipstick on the edge of her cup. Then she cleared her throat and turned the tablet back. "You're supposed to insult my composition. Your composition is emotionally manipulative." "Better." I should have said something then. Maybe not everything, not the whole messy truth, but something. Instead, I opened my bag, pulled out pretzels, and asked if she wanted the tiny airplane snack that tasted like salted cardboard. She took it and said, "This is why you're my favorite person." There it was again, the safe version of a sentence that could ruin me. Then the seatbelt sign dinged. The captain's voice came overhead, calm in the practiced way of pilots who probably knew passengers analyzed every syllable for signs of death. "Folks, we're expecting a little rough air ahead. We're going to ask everyone to remain seated with seatbelts fastened." Leah's hand paused on the pretzel bag. I noticed because I noticed too much. "You okay?" I asked. "Fine." You said that like a woman who is absolutely not fine. "I'm fine with turbulence." "You once apologized to an elevator because it jerked." "That elevator had attitude." The plane bumped. Not much. Just enough for the wings to flex and a few people to stop talking. Leah looked out the window, her jaw tightened. I lowered my voice. "Hey." She didn't turn. So I did what best friends do. I made it less scary by being annoying. "If we crash, I want you to know something." She looked at me then, eyes wide. "Tyler, I want my funeral slideshow to include only flattering photos." "Oh my God!" "And not the one from your birthday where I'm eating cake with a fork in each hand. That's the first slide." "Cruel." "You look happy. I look feral." "You were protecting the cake from strangers." There were threats. She laughed, but it came out shaky. Then the plane dropped again. Harder this time. Her laugh vanished. The cabin tilted. A baby started crying. A flight attendant braced one hand against the ceiling as she hurried toward her jump seat. My own pulse kicked up because there is no version of a plane shaking violently that makes a man feel dignified. Then came the big drop. The one that stole all sound for a heartbeat. The one that made the entire cabin gasp as a single body. Leah's tablet slid off her lap. My pretzels flew. The oxygen masks did not drop, which I decided was a positive sign, though my nervous system had already filed a complaint. Leah grabbed my hand, not my wrist, not my sleeve, my hand. Her fingers slid between mine with desperate precision, like she had known exactly where they belonged, but had been waiting for disaster to give her permission. I turned toward her. Her eyes were glossy. Her lips parted like she was trying to breathe around words too big for her. "Leah," I said. Another jolt shook the plane. She squeezed my hand so tightly it hurt. "If we don't make it," she said, voice breaking, "I love you." Not, "You know I love you." Not, "I love you, buddy." Not the casual version tossed over bad coffee and inside jokes. This was stripped down. Terrified. Honest. It landed in me harder than the turbulence. For 2 seconds, I forgot the plane. I forgot the screaming woman, the rattling bins, the stranger beside the aisle muttering a prayer under his breath. All I could feel was Leah's hand in mine and the impossible truth that maybe I hadn't been alone in that quiet ache after all. I leaned closer so she could hear me. "Leah." The plane lurched again, and she shut her eyes. I put my other hand over our joined ones, not to calm her, not only that, because I wanted to hold her too. Because if the sky was going to rip the truth out of us, I wasn't going to let her be the only brave one. "I love you too," I said. Her eyes opened. The words hung between us, trembling with the plane. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the shaking eased. The engine settled into a steadier hum. A few nervous laughs broke out around the cabin. Someone behind us whispered, "Thank you, Jesus." Leah stared at me like she had just realized we were still alive. Then she looked down at our hands, still locked together. Color rushed into her cheeks. "Tyler," she whispered, "I wasn't supposed to say that." My heart was beating so hard I could feel it in my throat. She tried to pull her hand away. I didn't let go, not roughly, not dramatically, just enough to make her look at me. "Neither was I said, and that was when Leah's eyes filled with a fear that had nothing to do with turbulence. Leah's hand stayed in mine for exactly 8 more seconds. I know because I counted them like a man trying to memorize the last warm thing on earth. 1. Her thumb rested against my knuckle. 2. The captain came on and said something about unexpected weather systems and thanking us for our patience. 3. Leah swallowed. 4. I wondered if I had ruined the best thing in my life by telling the truth at 30,000 feet. 5. She looked at my mouth. 6. I stopped breathing like an idiot. 7. Her eyes snapped back to mine. 8. Then she pulled away. Not violently, not like I'd hurt her. More like she had touched a hot stove and couldn't decide whether the burn was pain or proof. "I'm sorry," she said. That was the worst possible thing she could have said. I would have preferred, "Forget it." I could have survived. Panic makes people weird. I might even have managed, I meant it platonically, though it would have required a medical team and several pies. But "I'm sorry" made it sound like she regretted handing me something precious. I turned toward her as much as the seatbelt allowed. "Don't apologize." She stared at the tray table in front of her. I panicked. "I noticed." Her mouth twitched. "You're not supposed to be funny right now." I'm also not supposed to be emotionally dismantled in 18B, but here we are. She closed her eyes for a second. The plane gave a small bump and her hand flexed on her thigh. I wanted to reach for it again, but now that the world was no longer ending, touching her felt less like comfort and more like a question. So I asked one instead. "Did you mean it?" She opened her eyes. The cabin was loud in that post-terror way, full of people pretending they had not recently made bargains with God. A man across the aisle laughed too hard at nothing. The baby had stopped crying. Sunlight flashed across Leah's face, catching the tear track she hadn't wiped away. "Yes," she said. One word. Tiny, catastrophic. My chest went tight. "Okay." Her brows drew together. "Okay? I'm trying very hard not to say something stupid. That's never stopped you before." "Exactly. Growth." She looked at me then, really looked, and there was my Leah under all the panic, the woman who could challenge me even while terrified. "What did you mean?" she asked. I knew what she was doing. She was giving me a trapdoor, an exit, a chance to soften it. I didn't take it. "I meant I'm in love with you," I said. "Not just that I love you because you know my coffee order and once helped me move a couch up 3 flights of stairs. I mean I'm in love with you in the inconvenient, embarrassing, probably obvious to everyone but us way." Her lips parted. I forced myself to keep going before courage fled the aircraft. "I didn't say anything because you matter too much. Because being your best friend is better than being someone you used to date and now avoid at parties. Because I thought wanting more was selfish." Leah's eyes shone again, but this time she didn't look away. "And?" she whispered. "And now you have to say something because I'm dangerously close to filling the silence with a detailed analysis of Paprika." A laugh broke out of her, soft and wet and beautiful. Then she covered her face with both hands. "I had a plan." "You had a plan?" "Yes." "For confessing you loved me during catastrophic turbulence?" "No, Tyler." She dropped her hands and gave me a helpless glare. "For not confessing at all." "Oh, terrible plan." "It was working." "It was not. You once got jealous of a woman who asked for my number at a food truck. She had predatory eyebrows. She wanted to send me a coupon. She wanted to send you other things." I stared at her. She stared back. Then we both laughed, but it faded quickly, leaving something quieter between us. Leah leaned her head against the seat. "I told myself you didn't see me that way." "I see you every way." The words came out before I could polish them. Her breath caught. The plane was steady now, absurdly calm, as if it had not just cracked our friendship open and spilled all the secrets out. Around us, people had resumed reading, sleeping, scrolling. Nobody knew that row 18 had become a crime scene. Leah reached for my hand again, this time slowly, this time with a choice in it. Her fingertips brushed my palm. "I'm scared." "Of flying?" She shook her head. "Of landing." I understood. In the air, everything felt suspended. Consequences waited on the ground with baggage claim and rental cars, and her sister's wedding weekend full of relatives who already thought we were halfway married. I turned my hand over and laced my fingers through hers. We don't have to solve everything before we touch down. Her thumb moved over mine. What if we ruin it? What if we don't? She gave me a look. That's your whole argument? I can add charts. Please don't. I can make a 5-year projection. Tyler. Fine. I squeezed her hand. Here's my argument. I would rather be scared with you than safe pretending I don't want you. Her face changed. It softened in a way I had never been allowed to see up close. Not as her friend. Not as the guy sitting beside her on movie nights while she fell asleep with her feet tucked under my leg. Not as the person she called when her mother criticized her career or a client refused to pay. This was different. This was Leah letting me see the want. I do want you, she said. Everything inside me went still. She looked embarrassed immediately, like the words had walked out without permission, but she didn't take them back. I smiled because I couldn't help it. Good. Good. Very good. You're smug. I'm having an historic day. She rolled her eyes, but she was smiling now too. The descent began 20 minutes later. By then, we had not kissed. We had not defined anything. We had, however, continued holding hands under the shared armrest like teenagers hiding from a chaperone. When the wheels finally hit the runway in Savannah, the entire cabin burst into applause. Leah laughed and wiped under one eye. People really do that. I might join them. I'm emotionally fragile. You? Never. We taxied toward the gate. Phones came out. Seatbelts clicked too early. Normal life resumed with rude efficiency. Leah looked down at our hands one last time. My sister is going to notice. Your sister notices when clouds look uneven. Rena has instincts. Then we tell her the truth. Leah's eyes widened. The truth? That, during severe turbulence, you confessed your undying love and I nobly accepted. She smacked my arm with her free hand. I hate you. No, you don't. We covered this. Her cheeks went pink again, and I decided I liked making Leah blush more than I liked oxygen. At baggage claim, the air felt thick and warm, full of perfume, coffee, and wet pavement. Rain streaked the tall windows. We stood side by side waiting for her suitcase, not touching now, which somehow made every inch between us louder. Her bag appeared first. We both reached for it. Our hands collided on the handle. For one suspended second, neither of us moved. Then Leah looked up at me through her lashes. Are we going to be weird? Probably. Are you going to overthink everything? Absolutely. Am I going to pretend I'm not staring at your mouth? My grip tightened on the suitcase handle. She froze as if surprised by her own courage. I stepped closer. Are you? No, she said. The carousel clanked beside us. People moved around us with bags and umbrellas and weekend plans. Leah tipped her face up. I had imagined kissing her too many times to count. In my apartment doorway, on her fire escape, under the neon sign of our favorite taco place, but never in baggage claim, with one hand on a suitcase and rain blurring the world behind her. Still, when I lowered my head, it felt inevitable. Her lips met mine softly. Just once. A careful kiss. A question. A beginning. When I pulled back, her eyes stayed closed for half a second longer, and that nearly ended me. Then she whispered, that was not part of my plan either. I smiled against her forehead. Leah, I said, your plan was terrible. Leah's sister noticed in under 4 minutes. To be fair, Rena, Whitaker had been born noticing things. She noticed chipped nail polish, forced smiles, uneven hems, and once, from across a restaurant, that a waiter was about to propose to another waiter before either of them knew it. So when Leah and I walked into the hotel lobby with rain in our hair and the same stunned expression, Rena took one look at us and narrowed her eyes. Oh, she said. Leah stopped dead. No. Rena's eyebrows rose. She wore a white silk robe over leggings, her hair in curlers, and somehow still looked like a woman who could command armies. I didn't ask anything. You said, oh. It was a very informed oh. I lifted one hand. Congratulations on your wedding. Rena ignored me completely. Leah! Leah's suitcase squeaked as she dragged it closer to her side like a shield. We had a rough flight. Mm-hmm. There was turbulence. Was the turbulence named Tyler? I coughed. Leah turned bright red. Rena! Her sister's face softened instantly, and for a second the teasing fell away. She stepped forward and hugged Leah hard. I'm glad you're here. Leah hugged her back with one arm, still holding the suitcase handle. Me too. Then Rena looked at me over Leah's shoulder and mouthed. Finally, I mouthed back, Help? She smiled like a villain. That was how I learned Leah's entire family had apparently been watching our slow-motion emotional disaster for years. The weekend had been planned with military precision. Welcome drinks at 5, rehearsal at 6:30, dinner at 8, photos, speeches, favors, emergency sewing kit, backup emergency sewing kit. I saw the schedule taped to the inside of Rena's bridal suite door and briefly considered returning to the airport. Leah and I got adjoining rooms, not by choice, according to the front desk clerk, who gave us 2 key cards and a cheerful, "Lucky you." Leah stared at the little paper sleeve. That feels pointed. It's a door, not a moral judgment. There's a door between our rooms. A very responsible door. She looked at me, and there it was again. That flash of nervous heat. Baggage claim came back to me, her mouth soft under mine, her breath catching after. I lowered my voice. I can ask to switch. Her expression changed. Not panic, not exactly. Something more vulnerable. Do you want to? No. The word came out too fast. Her lips curved. Okay. Do you? She shook her head, but her eyes stayed on mine. No. That one small answer followed me into my room and made unpacking feel obscene. I changed for the welcome drinks, like a man preparing for battle. Navy jacket, white shirt, the dress shoes Leah had approved after rejecting my first pair as emotionally beige. Through the connecting door, I heard drawers opening, the faint hiss of hairspray, then Leah swearing softly. I knocked on the doorframe. Alive? No. Decent? Emotionally? Never. Clothing-wise? Yes. I opened the door and forgot every joke I had ever known. Leah stood in the middle of her room wearing a green dress that tied at one shoulder and skimmed her body like it had been designed by someone who hated my composure. Her hair fell in loose waves, still damp at the ends from the rain. One earring was in, the other was missing. She looked at me in the mirror. Don't. I didn't say anything. Your face did. My face is innocent. Your face just wrote a sonnet. I leaned against the doorframe because standing upright had become complicated. It was a tasteful sonnet. She turned and the teasing faded. Too much? I pushed away from the door and crossed to her, stopping close enough that I could see the tiny pulse at the base of her throat. No, I said. You look beautiful. Her lashes flickered. I had complimented her before. Best friend compliments, nice jacket, cool photo. You look less dead today. But this one landed differently because we both let it. She looked down, suddenly shy. Can you help with the earring? I dropped the back. We found it near the dresser. I stood behind her while she lifted her hair, exposing the delicate line of her neck. I should not have been undone by an earring. I was. My fingers brushed her ear as I fastened it. Leah went very still. In the mirror, her eyes met mine. Tyler, she whispered. Yeah? I'm trying not to make this weekend about us. I nodded, though my hand still hovered near her shoulder. It's Rena's wedding. I know. But you kissed me in baggage claim, and now I can't remember how to behave like a normal person. I smiled helplessly. Same. She turned slowly. We were too close. One step, half a breath, and I could have kissed her again. Instead, Leah reached up and straightened my collar. The gesture was small, almost domestic. It hit me harder than turbulence. I'm scared people will laugh, she said, not meanly. Just that thing where everyone says they knew and suddenly the most private part of me is a family joke. I covered her hand where it rested against my chest. Then we don't tell anyone until you want to. But Rena already knows. Rena has supernatural powers. She doesn't count. Leah laughed softly. I threaded my fingers through hers. We can be quiet. We can be slow. We can be whatever makes you feel safe. Her eyes searched mine. And what do you want? There it was. The question she kept giving me because she still didn't fully believe I would choose her out loud. So I did. I want to take you on an actual date, I said. Not as your wedding buffer, not as your emergency contact. I want to sit across from you somewhere with candles and pretend I'm not staring at your mouth. Her smile bloomed, shy and pleased. That sounds terrible for your focus. I've accepted my limits. And after the date? My pulse jumped. After the date, I want to walk you home and be awkward about whether I'm allowed to kiss you. You're allowed, she said. The room tilted, though the floor stayed perfectly still. Now? I asked. Leah's answer was to rise onto her toes and kiss me. It wasn't careful like the first one. It wasn't a question. Her hand slid to the back of my neck and mine found her waist, and for a few seconds the entire wedding, the hotel, the storm outside, all of it dissolved into the soft sound she made when I kissed her back. When we broke apart, her forehead rested against mine. Slow, she reminded me, breathless. Right, I said. Very slow. My hand was still at her waist. Neither of us moved. A knock exploded against her room door. Leah, Rena called. If Tyler is in there, tell him the welcome drinks are downstairs, not in your room. Leah shut her eyes. I'm going to smother her with a veil. I laughed into her hair. Before she pulled away, she squeezed my hand once. A promise. A yes. Downstairs, the lobby bar glowed gold against the rain-dark windows. Leah introduced me to cousins, uncles, college friends, and one grandmother who pinched my cheek and told me I had reliable eyes. Leah drifted beside me all evening, not touching often, but always returning. Our shoulders brushed at the bar. Her fingers grazed my sleeve when she laughed. Under the high-top table, her ankle hooked lightly around mine for one secret second. It was maddening. It was perfect. Near the end of the night, Rena's fiancé, Marco, raised a glass and thanked everyone for coming. Leah stood beside me, smiling at her sister with such naked love that my chest ached. Then she leaned closer and whispered, Would it be wrong to escape for 10 minutes? From a wedding event? Pre-wedding event. Legally distinct. Where? She nodded toward the hotel courtyard beyond the lobby doors. Rain had softened to mist. Outside, fairy lights looped through oak branches and the air smelled like wet brick and jasmine. It felt dangerously like the date I had asked for. We stepped into the courtyard together. The music became muffled behind the glass. Leah wrapped her arms around herself and I took off my jacket. She gave me a look. Don't be noble. I'm cold anyway. I'm delicate. Finally admitting it. I draped the jacket over her shoulders. She caught the lapels and held them closed, looking small and luminous under the lights. For the record, she said, I want the date too. I stepped closer. Yeah? And the awkward walk home. Good. And the kiss at the end. I smiled. Planning ahead? I'm revising my terrible plan. I touched her cheek, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. So I kissed her under the dripping oak trees slow enough to keep our promise, honest enough to make my hand shake. When she tucked her face against my chest afterward, I held her because I wanted to, because she wanted me to, because finally we were choosing the same thing at the same time. Inside, someone called Leah's name. She sighed. Back to reality. I kissed her temple. Reality is improving. Her smile pressed against my shirt. Then she looked up at me, eyes bright and scared and happy. Stay close tonight? I took her hand. Try getting rid of me. By the next morning, Leah and I had become terrible spies. We thought we were subtle. We were not. At breakfast, she stole a strawberry from my plate and our fingers touched for maybe half a second too long. Her grandmother leaned over her tea and smiled like she had just watched a proposal. During the rehearsal, I stood in the second row while Leah practiced walking down the aisle ahead of Rena. She was barefoot because her heels were in active negotiations with Satan. And every time she passed me, she looked straight ahead with the expression of a woman ignoring a fire alarm. Then, on her way back, she whispered without moving her lips, "Stop looking at me." I whispered back, "Stop being lookable." She tripped over nothing. I caught her elbow. The wedding planner clapped once. "Let's all stay focused." Rena at the altar mouthed, "Terrible spies." Leah's cheeks went pink. Mine probably did too. It should have been easy after that. Funny, sweet. The kind of weekend story people told later with champagne and smug smiles. But love, I was discovering, did not politely wait until after scheduled events. It kept reaching for us in the middle of everything. At the rehearsal dinner, I sat 2 tables away from Leah, which felt unreasonable for a man who had kissed her under oak trees less than 24 hours earlier. She wore a black dress this time, simple and soft, her hair pinned up with little gold clips. Every time she laughed, my attention left whatever conversation I was pretending to have. After the toast, Aunt Marlene appeared beside Leah with the precision of a hawk. I could not hear everything over the noise, but I saw the shape of it. Marlene's bright smile, Leah's polite one. A hand on Leah's arm, a glance in my direction. Then I heard Marlene say, "So, are you and Tyler finally admitting it? Or is this still that odd little friendship thing?" Leah's smile froze. I waited for her to roll her eyes, to say something clever, to call me delicate across the room and make everyone laugh. Instead, she looked down at her napkin. "It's nothing," she said. The words were quiet. They still found me. "It's nothing." I knew she was cornered. I knew she hated being observed. I knew we had agreed to go slow. But knowing did not stop the small, ugly twist in my chest. I looked away first. A minute later, she appeared beside my chair. "Can we talk?" I stood too quickly. "Sure." We slipped out into a hallway lined with framed watercolor prints and too much beige carpet. The noise of the dinner faded behind us. Leah hugged her arms around herself. "You heard." "Yeah." "I didn't mean—" "I know." Her eyes sharpened. Don't do that." "Do what?" "Be understanding before I've explained. It makes me feel worse." I let out a breath. "Okay, it hurt." Her face crumpled a little. I hated that too. "I'm sorry," she said. "Marlene cornered me and I panicked. Everyone keeps looking at us like they're entitled to the ending before we've even figured out the beginning. I don't care what Marlene thinks. I know, I do." She looked ashamed of it. "Not because I'm embarrassed of you. God, Tyler, never because of that." "Then why?" "Because if everyone makes it a joke, it stops feeling like ours." Her voice went small. "And I wanted it to be ours for a while." That undid me more than any apology could have. I stepped closer, but not all the way. "I can give you private." Her eyes lifted. "But I can't be nothing," I said. "Not after the plane. Not after last night. I can be quiet. I can be patient. I can keep my hands to myself in front of your terrifying relatives. That last one sounds difficult for you. It will require discipline." Her mouth trembled toward a smile. I continued softer, "But I need to know you won't erase me when you're scared." Leah nodded once fast, like the words had landed exactly where they needed to. Then she closed the distance between us and took my hand in both of hers. "You're not nothing," she said. "You're the person I look for in every room. You're the person I wanted before I knew what to do with wanting. You're—" She swallowed. "You're Tyler. That's the problem. That's the whole terrifying point." The ache in my chest loosened. "Terrifying point," I repeated. "Not my official title. I'll workshop it." "You do owe me a better one." She looked down at our hands, then back up. "The man I'm in love with." The hallway went very still. It was not the first time she had said it. Not exactly. But this time we were on the ground, perfectly safe, with no turbulence to blame. I moved my thumb over her knuckles. "I like that one." "Do you?" "Enough that I might need it embroidered on something." She laughed, and I pulled her gently toward me. The kiss was quiet. No oak trees, no rain, No dramatic near-death confession. Just Leia in a beige hotel hallway, choosing me with her mouth soft under mine and her hands holding the front of my shirt like she intended to keep me there. When we returned to the dinner, Aunt Marlene looked over with open curiosity. Leah saw her. Then, with a deep breath, she reached under the table and linked her fingers with mine. No announcement, no performance, just us. I loved her so much in that moment I could barely remember how to sit in a chair. The wedding day arrived bright and humid, with sunlight pouring over Savannah like honey. For most of the morning, I did not see Leah. Bridesmaid duties swallowed her whole. I was given jobs by Rena that included moving flower boxes, locating Marco's missing cufflinks, and preventing one groomsman from improvising his speech. At 2:30, my phone buzzed. Leah, are you alive? Me. Physically, emotionally questionable. Leia, did Rena make you carry the hydrangeas? Me. I have known war. Leah, meet me by the side garden in 5 minutes. Me. Running. Leah, walk. You're delicate. I found her behind a wall of blooming jasmine, half hidden from the chaos. She wore her bridesmaid dress now, pale blue, with her hair swept back from her face. The sight of her stole the sarcastic comment right out of my mouth. She turned in a slow circle. Two bridesmaidi? You look like every good decision I've never made. Her smile went soft. That was dangerously smooth. I panicked. She reached for me. I went willingly. For one stolen minute, we stood in the shade with her hands around my waist and mine resting at her back. I could hear guests arriving on the other side of the garden wall. Chairs scraping, laughter, a violin tuning. Leah pressed her cheek to my chest. After tonight, everything changes, doesn't it? Probably. I don't want to lose the easy parts. We won't. You don't know that. No, I admitted. But I know us. We'll still argue about paprika. You'll still steal my fries and pretend it's taxation. I'll still fix your printer while you insult technology like it personally betrayed you. It has. And now, I said, brushing my lips over her temple, I'll get to kiss you after. She tipped her face up. That is a compelling upgrade. I kissed her once, careful of her lipstick. She kissed me back, less careful. A voice called from around the corner. Leah, we need you for photos. She sighed against my mouth. I have to go. I figured. She didn't move. Leah, I know. She stepped back, then caught my hand before she got too far. Save me a dance tonight? I smiled. Just one? Her eyes brightened. Then she said, start with one. We'll negotiate the rest. And when she walked away, looking back once over her shoulder, I knew the ground beneath us was changing. But for the first time, I wasn't afraid of the landing. The wedding was beautiful in the way only slightly chaotic weddings can be beautiful. Rena cried before she reached the aisle. Marco cried when he saw Rena crying. And one of the flower girls abandoned her basket halfway down and sprinted directly into her grandfather's lap. Leah stood at the front in pale blue, holding her bouquet with both hands, smiling at her sister like joy was something she could barely contain. I should have been watching the bride. Mostly I watched Leah, not because Rena wasn't radiant. She was. The whole garden seemed built around her. Happiness. But Leah kept glancing at me. Small looks. Quick ones. The kind that would have meant nothing to anyone else. To me, each one felt like a hand reaching across the aisle. When Rena and Marco kissed, everyone cheered. Leah laughed through tears, and I had the ridiculous thought that someday, if I was lucky enough, I wanted to be the reason she smiled like that in front of everyone. Then she looked at me again. This time, she didn't look away quickly. My chest went warm. Maybe someday was closer than I thought. The reception started under a white tent strung with lights. The air smelled like gardenias, champagne, and warm grass. People danced before dinner was even served. Aunt Marlene cornered 3 separate cousins about their plans, and Rena moved through the crowd glowing with the power of a woman who had survived seating charts. I kept my distance from Leah at first, not cold distance, chosen distance. She had asked for slow, private hours. So I talked to Marco's uncle about fly fishing, even though I knew nothing about fly fishing. I accepted champagne from a waiter. I pretended not to feel Leah whenever she entered my line of sight. Then the first slow song began. I was standing near the edge of the dance floor when Leah appeared in front of me, holding out her hand. No announcement, no joke. Just Leah, brave and blushing, choosing me where people could see. "Dance with me?" she asked. My throat tightened. "I thought we were negotiating." "We are." Her fingers wiggled. "This is my opening offer." I took her hand. Accepted. She let me lead her onto the dance floor. The moment my hand settled at her waist, she inhaled softly. Her palm slid to my shoulder. Around us, couples swayed beneath the lights, but the whole tent blurred, until there was only Leah, close enough that I could see the tiny gold flecks in her eyes. "You okay?" I asked. Terrified. Of dancing? Of everyone knowing. I looked around. Rena was watching from Marco's arms, smiling like she might combust. Leah's grandmother dabbed her eyes with a napkin. Aunt Marlene looked deeply satisfied. "Bad news," I said. "They know." Leah groaned and dropped her forehead against my chest. "I hate your face." "You love my face." "Unfortunately." I laughed and her arms tightened around me. Then she lifted her head. Her expression was still nervous, but something steadier had settled beneath it. "I don't want to hide you," she said. I stopped moving for half a beat. She noticed. "I'm not saying I want everyone in our business," she added quickly. "I still want parts of this that are just ours, but I don't want to pretend you're nothing. You were right, you're not." I brushed my thumb along her back. "Leah, you're my best friend," she said, "and I'm in love with you. I don't know exactly how to do both yet, but I want to learn." I forgot the music. I forgot the people. I forgot every version of myself that had ever believed wanting her was something I had to survive quietly. "I want that too," I said. "All of it. The friendship, the awkward first dates, the terrifying family commentary, the fries you steal from my plate." "Our fries. My printer you keep breaking." "It senses weakness." "The slow parts," I said. "The real parts." Her eyes softened. Then, in front of her sister, her grandmother, Aunt Marlene, the fly-fishing uncle, and at least one flower girl with frosting on her chin, Leah rose onto her toes and kissed me. It wasn't long. It didn't need to be. When she pulled back, the people closest to us cheered. Leah hid her face against my shoulder. "I have made a terrible mistake." I held her closer, smiling so hard it hurt. "Your plans are improving." Later that night, after cake and speeches and Rena throwing her bouquet directly at Leah's head, by accident, we escaped to the edge of the garden. Leah had kicked off her shoes. I carried them in one hand while she walked barefoot through the grass, her fingers laced with mine. The tent glowed behind us. Music drifted out softly, mixed with laughter and clinking glasses. She looked up at the sky. "Hard to believe yesterday I thought we might die in a plane. Technically, that was the day before. Don't be precise during my emotional moment." "Sorry." She leaned into my side. "If it hadn't happened, would you have told me?" I wanted to say yes. The truth mattered more. "I don't know," I admitted. "I wanted to, 100 times. But I kept choosing safe." She nodded slowly. "Me too." "Are you sorry it came out that way?" She stopped walking and turned to me. The garden lights caught in her hair. Her lipstick had mostly worn off. She looked tired, happy, overwhelmed, and so completely herself that I felt the force of it in my ribs. "I'm sorry I was scared for so long," she said. "I'm not sorry you heard me." I set her shoes down in the grass and touched her cheek. "Good," I said, "because hearing you was the best thing that ever happened to me." She smiled, but her eyes filled. "You're going to make me cry again. At least we're on the ground. That is not as comforting as you think." I kissed her then, slow and sure, with the wedding music behind us and her bare feet on top of mine. She laughed against my mouth because I nearly lost my balance, and I held her tighter, and somehow that made it better. Not perfect. Better, real. 6 months later, Leah and I took another flight. This one was to Seattle for her photography exhibit, where one of her abandoned gas station photos had been selected for a gallery show. She pretended not to be nervous and reorganized her camera bag 4 times at the gate. I brought coffee. She looked at the cup, then at me. You remembered extra cinnamon? I'm your boyfriend. It's in the contract. You like saying that. I love saying that. Her smile went soft in the way that still made me feel like I'd been trusted with something rare. When we boarded, she took the window. I took the aisle because a child across from us had sticky fingers and I feared for my jacket. Halfway through the flight, the seatbelt sign dinged. The plane bumped once. Leah's hand found mine immediately. But this time, she wasn't white with fear. This time, she turned her palm up, laced our fingers together, and gave me a brave little smile. If we don't make it, she said, I still love you. I brought her hand to my mouth and kissed her knuckles. If we do make it, I said, I'm taking you to dinner. That sounds like emotional blackmail. It's romance. It's bribery. It can be both. The plane steadied. Outside the window, clouds rolled beneath us like a soft, white ocean. Leah rested her head on my shoulder. And somewhere above the world that had once scared the truth out of us, I held the woman I loved and watched our reflection in the dark airplane window. Two best friends, hand in hand, no longer waiting for disaster to be honest. What would you have done if your best friend grabbed your hand during severe turbulence and confessed they loved you? Have you ever experienced something similar where fear made someone finally tell the truth? Tell me your story in the comments. And for those who'd like to be a little closer to us, we've opened memberships where you'll get shorter exclusive stories every week with no ads. If you like this one, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.